All right, guys, so here we go. I'm going to do a quick review for you on some terminology as it connects and pertains to poetry, because that's what we're going to focus on this week. So, with that being said, our first thing is a metaphor. Now, I know this is something that's probably been drilled into your head since maybe like third grade, but it's always good to have a quick reminder. So, a metaphor is a comparison between two unlike things. And typically, metaphors are used to represent something specific, and they usually provide clarity or understanding or show a hidden meaning of something. So, some examples might be, you are the apple of my eye. You are the sunshine of my life. My brother is the black sheep of the family. So, you are the apple of my eye. When we think about that, you're comparing you or a person to something being like an apple or something that's like very good to look at, something very positive. And so, just a cute little picture for you guys. So a simile. Now, a simile is a comparison between two unlike things using keywords like or as. Once again, this is something that's been drilled into your head since forever, and it is usually used to enhance your description of something. So some examples that you might have heard of is, she is as pretty as a rose. Or if you've ever seen the movie Forrest Gump, Forrest Gump says, life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Technically, Mama said it, but that was Forrest quoting Mama. So what does that mean? Well, there you go. You have a box of chocolates. You never know what one you're going to pick. So that's life. Then imagery. We typically have imagery throughout any type of text. So we can talk about imagery as we see in movies. We can talk about imagery you might read in a poem, in a play, in a book. And imagery basically helps to paint a picture for your reader, typically using the five senses. Obviously, those five senses are sight, touch, smell, taste, and sound or hearing. And so we use those five senses to basically give your reader something to picture, something to imagine, to make the text come off the page and create something in their mind. Then we have personification. So personification is typically when the author provides human traits to non-human entities. So some examples would be, the trees danced in the wind. Now, we know that trees are non-human things. Granted, yes, they are considered living things, but they are non-human. And dancing is that human trait that we're giving to those trees. Because our trees physically can't dance, but the way the wind blows and they sway back and forth, it appears that they're dancing. Or my alarm yells at me every morning. The alarm being our non-human thing, yelling being that human action that's being given to them. So we have an allusion. An allusion is an expression that's designed to call attention to something without directly mentioning it. However, in order to recognize and identify allusions, you need to understand the allusion that's being made. So some examples might be, if someone is calling someone Scrooge, if you have read the play A Christmas Carol, or read the book, or seen the movie of it, there's many different versions, then that might be something you would understand, because Ebenezer Scrooge was a very angry, crotchety old man who never wanted to give to anybody. He was very miserable. He didn't want to celebrate the holidays. He was also very frugal. So when people compare someone to Scrooge, they're making that connection without directly saying that you are either kind of miserable, not very jolly during the holiday season, or very stingy. Typically, we see a lot of historical allusions and or biblical allusions. So sometimes you might hear Adam and Eve referenced, and other like events that have happened in the Bible, and that's typically an allusion. We're trying to teach something or say something about either a person, an event, using that connection, or even in pop culture. So Taylor Swift, there's a video here, so I'm going to post this slideshow for you guys to view. However, I can't play the song now, but in her love story, she references Romeo and Juliet, and how appropriate, Romeo and Juliet, written by William Shakespeare, who we just finished reading. And she is mentioning how it's their love story, and she refers to the man she's waiting for as Romeo, and that she's Juliet. She also makes another reference to this Scarlet Letter, which is another literary allusion. So allusions are very interesting, but like I said, you have to understand the reference in order to understand what they're trying to say. Then we have onomatopoeia, simply stated or simply described as sound words. So when you guys hear moo, ba, snap, crackle, pop, all of those are examples of onomatopoeia. Then we have symbolism. So symbolism is when we use a word or an object to represent an abstract idea or concept. So if I asked you right now, what does a red heart mean? I'm going to say you guys are all shouting at me right now, love. That's what I'm hoping. If I told you what does a broken red heart mean? Well, obviously, could be sadness, misery, because now you have a broken heart. What about a white dove? White dove typically represents peace. Of course, peace. And snakes, a lot of times snakes are considered evil. Sometimes they're also considered very wise or sneaky. It depends on what allusion you're thinking of. So let's focus a little bit on this idea of elements of poems. So we have stanzas, lines, and rhyme scheme. Oh my. So lines is a group of words within a poem. Okay, they're not always grammatically correct. You might not have complete sentences. You might have just like one word on a line, and that's okay. A stanza is when you group a set of lines. It can vary. You can have a stanza with, honestly, you probably could have one with just one line. You could have it with 2 lines. You could have a stanza with 6 lines, 8 lines. It depends on the style in which you're writing. And a rhyme scheme is a pattern formed by the final words found on each line. So I created this little poem right here so we could highlight some, come up with some, or recognize like the different rhyme scheme and what each thing is. So right here, I was walking down the road. Now that's an example right there of just a line. I was walking down the road to head to the grocery store. I only needed to buy some eggs and absolutely nothing more. That together, those 4 lines, creates a stanza. However, when I got there, I saw my favorite aisle. I knew this wouldn't be good. I would definitely be there a while. So now we have another set of 4. I walked out with cookies and 5 different kinds of chips. I ran all the way home so I could eat and realized I forgot the dip. Okay, so we now have 4 lines in each stanza, giving us 3 stanzas total, right? So we have 1 stanza here, we have 1 stanza here, and we have 1 stanza here. So therefore, we have 12 lines total. It's a little mini math lesson for you. 3 times 4 is 12. So keep in mind that stanzas are very similar to paragraphs, while lines are similar to sentences. However, they are not the same thing. So a sonnet. And that's what we're going to focus on this week. A sonnet is a 14-line poem that typically follows a rhyme scheme. Okay, and within this rhyme scheme, typically they vary depending on which style sonnet. There are many different. I only included the top 3 well-known styles of sonnets. And within it, each line usually has 10 syllables. That's not to say every single one has 10 syllables, but mostly they do. So the word sonnet actually comes from the Italian word sonetto, meaning little song. So here, just so you guys are aware and informed, these are the 3 most popular sonnets. There is the Italian sonnet or Petrarch, which is actually originated by a gentleman named Petrarch. And his rhyme scheme follows a pattern of A, B, B, A, B, B, A, C, D, C, D, C, D. Then we have Shakespearean sonnet, which is the one we're going to be looking at, and it goes A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, G, G. Or you have the Spencerian, which is AB, AB, BC, BC, CD, CD, EE. So similar concepts, but there's some repetition of letters here. So the last one that we want to just highlight is this idea of a volta. And a volta is a specific turn, and it's almost like the turning point or a shift within the poem. So you might have one kind of mood starting you off, and then there's a volta, and that's kind of where it switches. And we're going to take a different tone. Or there's going to be a shift in maybe like a story, if it's telling a story. Okay, so this is going to be the first sonnet we're looking at. This is Sonnet 18, written by William Shakespeare. Now, Sonnet 18, you guys need to keep in mind that this is in the original text. And with that, the original text, the way we read things today, might not sound the same way. So I've highlighted here for you guys to see the rhyme scheme. So we have A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, G, G. Now, when I read this, like I said, it might not totally sound like it's rhyming, but back then it did, the way they spoke. So I'm going to read this to you guys. Typically, sonnets are titled with numbers based on Shakespeare's style, and or it's typically known by its first line. So here we go. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade. When in eternal lines to time thou growest, so long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Okay, so we're going to dig into this tomorrow more so. We're going to kind of focus more and talk about it a lot. However, for your assignment, you guys are going to go into Google Forms. You are going to answer the questions as they pertain to all the different words that we just went through up here in this presentation. This presentation will be available to you, so you can just browse it as opposed to having to listen to me talk again. And the final questions are just going to ask you to reread the poem and see what your first thoughts are. See if anything pops out, maybe try to make some guesses as to what's being said here. And like I said, we're going to dive into it a little bit more tomorrow. Okay, so I hope that this presentation was informative. And if you do open it, you'll be able to kind of listen to these videos. And that's going to be about it. Okay, so that is our poetry terminology quick review. And like I said, I hope that this helps you guys. And if you have any questions, reach out. Awesome. I will talk to you guys later.